In this tutorial, you will interact with the ArcGIS Pro user interface. Each tab on the ribbon contains the tools you need to work with items in your project. You will use the Explorer tool for navigating maps and scenes in Wellington, New Zealand. You will then see how items in the Contents pane reflect the active view. When you switch views, the Contents pane updates. When you close a view, it's still in your project and you can reopen it on the Catalog pane. You will explore the Catalog pane, which contains all the resources in your project, including maps and scenes, layouts, geodatabases, and folder connections. You will rearrange panes to optimize your workspace. You will then see how ArcGIS Pro responds contextually to your work. For example, when you select a layer in the Contents pane, the Feature Layer Contextual tab will allow you to change the layer's symbology. You will then undo the change using the Quick Access toolbar. Here you can also save changes or open a new project. In this tutorial, we are going to import an ArcMap document into ArcGIS Pro. Right now we are looking at ArcMap. In this map document, we have two data frames, one named Kelburn and another named Wellington. We also have a layout with both maps and some surrounding elements. Now that we know what the document looks like, let's import it into ArcGIS Pro. In ArcGIS Pro, each map view represents a data frame from the map document. Both data frames have been imported. Here's the Kelburn map. As you can see, it looks just like it did in ArcMap. And here's the Wellington map, which also looks exactly the same. Now let's take a look at the layout. The maps and surrounding elements also appear exactly as they should. Importing map documents provides a clear, quick path to using your data in ArcGIS Pro. In ArcGIS Pro, a 3D map is called a scene. You can insert new scenes into your projects to convert an existing 2D map into a scene. The elevation data you need for 3D viewing is provided automatically by ArcGIS Pro. In this tutorial, you will convert a 2D map to a 3D scene to see a display of buildings. Even though we have converted a map to a scene, we still need to apply 3D visualization properties. Before we do that, let's get a better view of what this area's terrain looks like by changing the base map to imagery. Now we'll adjust some of the properties of the scene to enhance its appearance. First, let's make the sky blue. And to emphasize the variation in the terrain, we'll modify the elevation surface by increasing the exaggeration of the ground. Now let's add some data to the scene. We're concerned with buildings in a New Zealand suburb. Although the buildings follow the 3D contours of the scene, they don't stand up from the ground. That's because the elevation data in the scene applies to the terrain itself and not the heights of the buildings on top of the terrain. We will get the building height information from an attribute of the layer itself. This field will allow us to extrude the buildings and display them at their correct heights above the ground. In the extrusion properties, we will pick the approximate height field. The zoning layer is covering more of the terrain than we would like, so let's add some transparency to the layer. With the buildings extruded, we can begin to navigate through the scene from a variety of perspectives. Data can be added to your projects in several ways. In this tutorial, you will add data from the Living Atlas, the gallery of Esri curated content from ArcGIS Online. You also add data from the project's geodatabase. And by adding a folder connection to access data stored outside the project. You will change the layer symbology, and then modify its appearance by adding some transparency. To visualize the data in 3D, you will copy a layer from the 2D map and paste it into the 3D scene. You will then add additional layers to the scene by using the Add Data button on the Map tab. And finally, you will use bookmarks to explore the scene. A project template is a customized starting state for a project. For example, we can ensure that maps, scenes, and layouts have a consistent appearance, use the same data sets, and apply the same symbology. Project templates can be shared to your ArcGIS Online organization, portal for ArcGIS accounts, or saved locally. In this tutorial, we're going to share the template to ArcGIS Online. Let's provide some information so that those in our organization can understand what purpose the template serves. With that information entered, let's go ahead and share it to our organization. With the template uploaded, let's take a look at the template in our organization on ArcGIS Online. Here we can add more information to distinguish the template from other templates in the organization. To add the template into ArcGIS Pro, we'll access our portal and search for it in our organization. And there it is. Now let's create a new project using the template. Because the template is shared through ArcGIS Online, everybody in the organization can start a new project with this template. In this tutorial, you will use the Explorer tool to navigate a 2D map. You will manually adjust the 2D map scale, and then create a bookmark. You will then view the bookmark in a 3D scene. You can use the Explorer tool in 3D, but let's try the Navigator. Using the outer ring of the tool, you can face each cardinal direction and pan. Then with the inner ring, we'll tilt the view and use the sphere to look at the scene from a fixed position. You will then create a vertical tab group, link the 2D and 3D views together, and then explore your linked map and scene simultaneously. In this tutorial, you will first add a layout to the project by choosing one from the gallery. The layout becomes a view in your project just like your maps and scenes. You will then add guides to help align the maps and surrounding elements. To add a guide, you will right-click the rulers of the view and set the guide properties. With the guides in place, you will then add a map frame to the layout. You will resize it and adjust the extent. To help convey information in the map viewer, you will add a legend to interpret the symbols which show how much sunshine each rooftop gets in a year. To show the map's orientation, you will add a north arrow. And to give a sense of distance, you will add a scale bar. You will then add a title to explain what the map is about, and set the text properties and place the title in the allocated space. You will then add some text with more information about the data. Some people won't know where Wellington is, so you'll add an inset map to show more of New Zealand. You'll reshape the map frame to make room for it on the layout. You will then add an extent indicator to show the area covered by the main map. The inset map is dark, so the extent indicator should be bright. You will change the symbol to yellow so it shows up against the imagery. With all the essential map elements arranged on the layout, you can now print or export the map to a PDF. In this tutorial, you will learn how to work with pop-ups, attribute tables, selections, and charts by exploring cattle farming data in New Zealand. First, you will click on a few regions to open pop-up windows with information about each region. You will then open the attribute table to work with the data. For example, you can find which region has the most beef cattle for a given year by sorting. You will then select features on the map and compare them in the Attributes pane. Here you can also edit feature attributes and feature geometry. You will then use the Select by Attributes tool. Attribute queries ask questions about your data. For example, which regions have more than 1 million sheep and more than 500,000 beef cattle? As it turns out, only one region meets both conditions. You will then visualize the data distribution with a bar chart. In this case, you will look at the number of sheep in each region. By making a selection on the bars, you can see the regions on the map. And finally, you will configure pop-ups by adding an image of each region so that users of the map can see what New Zealand looks like. In this tutorial, we will start by labeling the suburbs of Wellington, New Zealand. The default text symbol is difficult to see on the map, so let's change it. Let's also change the label's placement, so as the scale of the map changes, each label will fit within its own boundary. Let's set a visibility range for these labels so when you zoom beyond a certain scale, the labels will no longer appear. Now let's turn on the flood zone layer and a building footprints layer and label it. The building footprints layer contains a field which indicates which buildings are of historic significance. Let's query the layer and label only those historic buildings. To fit the labels nicely inside the building boundaries, let's change the way they are positioned. Let's change the text symbol too so they are easier to see against the buildings. When zoomed out, the building labels are still being displayed. Let's set another visibility range so that these labels do not display beyond a certain scale. Now let's label the layer of Civil Defense Center so they can be identified in relation to the flood zone and historic buildings. To help the Civil Defense Center stand out, let's change their text symbol to a bright purple. Symbols are a visual representation of the features and attributes of layers in your maps and scenes. In this tutorial, you will format the appearance of a feature layer to better see Christchurch's urban area. You will change the symbol's color fill, outline color, and width. And to start symbolizing the bus stops, you will adjust the map scale, and then choose a bus station symbol from the gallery. You will then modify the symbol's appearance by changing its color and size. And then change the symbol's outline color to match the rest of the symbol. You will then symbolize the bus routes with unique values based on the type of route. And then apply a color scheme. You will further modify the color scheme by choosing a different line symbol for the ferry. You will then look at population points and symbolize their distribution with a heat map. To better see how bus routes relate to the population distribution, you will add transparency to the heat map. A project in ArcGIS Pro is a container for your maps, 3D scenes, data, and other resources needed to answer spatially related questions. In this Create a Project tutorial, you will create a new blank project, insert a map that will appear in the Map View and Contents pane, move the Contents pane by dragging it to a docking target, Locate a study area. Wrap the map around the dateline. Switch from a topographic base map to an imagery base map. Convert the 2D map to a 3D scene. And save the project by using the Quick Access toolbar. With ArcGIS Pro, we have several options for sharing our work. In this tutorial, we are going to share a map to the web and to a mobile app. First, let's add a quick summary, some tags, and choose who we want to share the map with. Now let's analyze the map for any errors. This warning does not appear to interfere with the data, so let's go ahead and share the map. This is the item page for the web map. Now let's open it with the ArcGIS Online Map Viewer. The bookmarks created in ArcGIS Pro are available to help us explore the map. This same map can be opened on a mobile device using Explorer for ArcGIS.